Hi everyone, this is Ricky with Romero Cards, and this video is featuring the brand new card making starter kit by Sweet Stamp Shop. Make sure you head over to the website and sign up for their newsletter to get release updates. We're first going to start out with some water cardstock. This is cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. It's just some Canson watercolor paper from Dick Blick or Michaels or Hobby Lobby, whichever store you choose. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of watercoloring here. So we're going to get this started. I want to try to make it quick, but also explain it at the same time. So basically what you're going to do is take your brush and you're going to spread this out onto the cardstock. At first I'm going to use this Pear Tart by Memento that's included in the kit. And basically what I'm doing is dropping that down onto the cardstock. This will naturally spread out because the cardstock was already wet. So all you have to do is just drop in the color and it'll spread. And in some places you may need to spread it out itself just because maybe there's not enough water or you want a different look. So we have the green down and we're just going to add it here, maybe a few other spots on there. And then we're going to move over to the sand or desert sand. And with this we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to put the desert sand down on the cardstock. And we're going to put water on the cardstock, then we're going to use the ink and just place it onto the cardstock. This I had to put a little more ink down because it was a little lighter once I put the water in with the color. So in certain places you may want to drop a little more color just to make it darker. You might want to mix in the colors as well. I'm going to go back with a little bit of green and just add a little bit more color and just to get some of those lines that you get with natural watercolors. I added some more water and I'm just bringing the color up to the edge of the card. And I'll do this, I'll go back and forth. Sometimes you can do this and dry through the card and then reapply, but I just did everything at one time. And I went ahead and dried this. I didn't want to show you the whole thing. And basically here, I'm just putting a few things on the cardstock just to make sure everything fits. And we're going to be moving over to the next step, which is actually coloring in some of the rabbits in the hats. This is just a sample just to make sure to see what it looks like. Sometimes you want to take a picture of that so you can remember where you placed it when it's more difficult things you're laying down. I'm using the Memento Tuxedo Black ink here, and what I'm doing is just stamping down these rabbits inside the hats. We're going to use one on the outside of the card and then use one for the inside of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and get those stamped down, and then we're going to start doing some Copic coloring here in a moment. First color we're going to start out with is N5. I just want to tell you I am not an expert at Copic coloring. I do not know color theory. I don't know all of that stuff, but the good thing is that this kit comes with a color wheel and all that great stuff, so you can learn about that. I just do this for fun and I like to shade in and just go from there. So basically I'm taking these three colors, the N5, N7, and N9, and I'm just coloring in this hat as if it's going to be black. I didn't want to do a solid black because you kind of want to give it a little dimension. So kind of what I'm doing here is making it dark along the edges and light in the middle as if there's light in front of it. Again, I'm not an expert, so color it the way you want to color it. That's the best part about making cards. You do what you want to do. Then what I'm going to do is take a light color for the top of the hat or the brim or the rim, or I guess that's what you call it, and just use the N5, only one color. You don't need to do any crazy shading on the top part. I'm just going to do the same colors for this rabbit in this top hat. Nothing hard, nothing crazy. The next thing I'm going to do is coloring in the ears. I'm going to use R30. You could use any light pink for this. That is fine. Also, you could use colored pencils for this, or crayons, or whatever that you have handy, you can use to color these items in. You could use gel pens, anything. So now I'm going to color in the rabbit. I'm going to use C1, I think C3, and C5 for these colors. For the little tuft of the hat or the tuft of the head, I just put a few dots to make it kind of look like, you know, rabbit fur, just different colors. And the base color, I'm just using C1, and then I'm going to use C3 and C5 and just shade this out. and make it look a little nicer with some shading. I did the same thing with the top of the head, using the dots just to show some interest in the head. Here's a close-up of the coloring. Pretty good, not the best, but perfect for me. So basically now what I'm going to do is go through here and put everything on the card just to make sure that everything fits. And then what I'll do is I'm going to pull out my Misty. Now you could use the acrylic block that came with this card kit. Because this is watercolor paper, it's a little harder to use a acrylic block on that and get a good stamp. So I'm going to use my Misty for this. You could definitely use a positioning tool or an acrylic block if you're really careful. So I'm going to bring in my T-ruler here because I want to make sure this is straight when it's on the card. This is really useful. You could use a regular ruler if you wanted to. The T-ruler is just something I have with me. I think I've had it since I was in high school. It's really old. I'm going to use the Memento black ink, and I'm going to go ahead and get that down onto the stamp and stamp this over. And I usually do 2 stamps with this just to make sure everything looks good. So we got that down, and now we're going to start putting the card together. Okay, now I'm going to put some 3D foam tape on the back of this rabbit to pop it up from the card. One tip here, when you're using your 3D foam tape and you have these small pieces, just stick it to the side of the roll and you can use it at another time. Like, those have been there forever and they stick and they stay and you don't have to waste anything. That's something that I learned and I've been doing ever since then, because that 3D foam tape can be expensive. Basically I'm going to take the backings off of this and we're going to go ahead and put the rabbit onto the card. And this is pretty much the front of the card here. I'm using an eraser to take off a few spots that got onto the card by me, pushing it around onto the desk and all that great stuff. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and put the sentiment inside the card. And here you're going to see me do something that can be very scary. But I'm cutting the stamp in half. And just as long as you do it carefully, it's perfectly fine. It doesn't do anything to the stamp here. But what I wanted to say is happy belated birthday in this sentiment. And the only way I could do that was to break that up. So it is okay to cut your stamps, just be careful when you're doing it, and they still work the same. So now what I'm going to do is just line up the sentiment in the Misty here using my T-ruler, just like I did before. And I have a little trouble here for a second because I go to move the ruler and they're sticking to it. But I'll work through this a little bit more, and I'll move it, and then the happy moves again. So basically I just get the happy to where I think it's straight, and that's what we're going to go with. So to test this out to make sure it looks straight, I'm just going to ink this up on a separate piece of paper that I'm going to discard later. And I just want to make sure this looks okay, the separation between the words, and that everything is lined up. And obviously you see here that that has lined up. So now I'm just going to ink up this stamp and go ahead and put the sentiment inside the card here. And now we're going to glue this rabbit onto the inside of the card. I just used some liquid adhesive here, multi-purpose glue here from Tombow. I'm going to set that inside and just close that and put that acrylic block on. These are great for weighing things down so when things dry. This is some 3D foam tape, or fun foam, and it's self-adhesive on one side. So basically I'm cutting it down to a little bit smaller than the actual card panel. And then I'm going to take this and put this on the back of the watercolor paper. This is important because watercolor paper tends to warp when you're watercoloring, so this putting a full sheet of this on the back helps to keep that from warping when you go to put it actually on your card base. So we got that on there, and now we're going to start getting the card put together. Now on the other side of the 3D foam, or the fun foam, I'm going to add this score tape here, and it's a double-sided adhesive, and it just really secures this down to the card base. I'm just going to check this out and make sure everything looks good and even on every side. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing of this score tape. But one thing you're going to see me here do in a second is get some temporary glue, because this is super sticky, and if you lay it down on something and you try to pick it up, it's going to rip the paper. So I'm going to use some temporary glue dots here to close down the card base so that I could put this on and for it to be even. Because I'm not really good at this part, I have to make sure that everything's good. Keeps the card closed, and then what I'm going to do is just use an eraser here to get the adhesive off. I actually switch over to an adhesive eraser remover. I believe that's how you would say that. But basically I'm going over to the wall to try to find my eraser. Here we go. I think it's called a gum eraser also. I think you can use it to take away masking gum for when you're masking like watercolors and things like that. So now the card is complete. There we go. Now that the card is complete, make sure you head over to Sweet Stamp Shop and check out the card making kit, memory making kit, and the planner kit. Also, be sure to follow them on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.